It was maddening. They did something very interesting, and they talked about this. They talked to the main, people in the administration, but they also had a lot of low-level sources. They had sources that were not the top echelon, but people that were willing to tell the truth. They didn't go necessarily on record, but they were on background, and they were able to figure out, these were patriots. These were people who recognized that the Bush administration had decided to go to war, and then they were looking for the intelligence to support that. It wasn't an active process of trying to find the truth of the intelligence, because if you read the intelligence estimate, there's all kinds of caveats that said we don't know, because we had not had real intelligence on the ground for 4 years. After the inspectors were kicked out, there was a 4-year period. We didn't know what Saddam Hussein was doing. So that was the whole point of Hans Blix going in from the United Nations and trying to find that out. And every month he'd report back and saying, no, I haven't found anything. And so rather than leave him in Iraq to see if there ultimately were or were not weapons, which we would have found out that they weren't, they yanked him out of there and they went to war anyway. And this was something they planned on doing even before 9/11. There's a thing called the Project for the New American. They've been getting in the weeds here, but there was a thing. There was a thing called the Project for the New American Century that was written by some neocons, Wolfowitz, Pearl, Feith, a number of people from the American Enterprise Institute. These were people who, after the Soviet Union fell, they realized that America was the last remaining superpower. What were we going to do with the power that we now had in terms of furthering democracy and our way of life and, spreading that word around the world? They determined that if they could put a Western-style democracy in the Middle East, that would hopefully proliferate and then help Israel. And that was the idea. So the idea to go to war in Iraq was decided even before 9/11, and then they used 9/11 as a way to motivate the public as to going to war there. That was their theory. And it was always confusing to me because these are very intelligent guys, Wolfowitz, and they're not dummies. And I thought, didn't they read their history? I mean, don't they know that, that the Shia and the Sunni have been at war with each other for 1,400 years? After the death of Muhammad, they tried to determine who was the likely heir, and that's what was going on. And that area of the world was held together by an iron fist in Saddam Hussein. There wasn't a country. They didn't have countries in the Middle East. This was territories that were marked out after the First World War by the British and the French. And so in this area, you had the Kurds, you had the Shia, and you had Sunnis. And they were living together because Saddam Hussein was a brutal, iron-fisted dictator. And the minute you removed him, why didn't they think that there was going to unleash this sectarian war, which it did, and it created ISIS. And so that we kind of knew was going to happen, and I always wondered why those guys didn't think that that would happen.
Did you ever get an answer?
No, I have never gotten an answer, because you always heard, we'll be greeted as liberators. I mean, we had Saddam Hussein in a box. We had a no-fly zone. We had inspectors on the ground, and he was
sanctions upon sanctions,
sanctions, and we had he was a bulwark against Iran. The whole idea was that we didn't want Iran to get the power, and Saddam Hussein was a bulwark. Well, if you got 60% Shia in Iraq, and Iran is a Shia country, well, guess what happens? Yeah. Guess what happens?
Yeah, we sort of lost that battle. Iran and Russia are becoming the superpowers of the Middle East.
Right, right. And somebody made this theory, and I don't know, I think it was Jonathan Landay, one of the journalists. He said that he always thought Ahmed Chalabi, this is the guy who was the head of the Iraqi National Congress, who was going to go in and take over for Saddam Hussein. And this is the guy that the Bush administration propped up. They gave them money and all this stuff. They said that secretly he was in line with Iran more than anything else, as a way of gaining power. I'm not sure that that's true. I don't know if that's true. But that was the theory he posited.
Any way to get power. He was like, sure.
Yeah, I'll go there. I'll hook up with Iran. Yeah.